Hello everyone, it's me, your average bonehead, Jay. Now, if you saw my last video, you'll probably remember a certain claim I made about shipping in a series that I really love. Rain, roll the clip. Luigi is shipped with Daisy, and Mario is shipped with Peach. Leave it at that, that's how it is, stop being stupid. No. That's the incorrect clip. It has nothing to do with what I'm talking about today. Did you even read the title of the video? Play the other clip. This show ends with all the potential ships left completely ambiguous. So technically speaking, it's completely valid to ship Akko with Diana or Akko with Andrew. They even made an entire episode that jokes about this. Thank you. But yes, this is actually a true thing when it comes to Low Witch Academia. Outside of maybe Ursula and Croy, none of the ships in this show come true by the ending. It's entirely left up to our interpretation, and that was intentional. However, it's not like they didn't hint at anything, but then again, the two they hinted at were the two that are always pitted against each other. But then again, I think they hinted to the two about the same amount when you really think about it. To the point where when you look at the climax of the final episode, you can argue that both Andrew and Diana have basically the same amount of chances of ending up with Akko at the ending. But then again, the show was never about the shipping, as it was more of a friendship thing they were trying to push with the whole cast coming together at the ending. However, as I also mentioned in that previous video, they did make a whole episode that joked about shipping. And that episode is the topic of today's video, Be Affection. This overall is a pretty simple episode, so if you're wondering why I'm talking about it, it's because the last video burnt me out so much that I just needed something simple to talk about for this week, okay? So, let's get into it. The episode begins with Susie receiving a cupid bee. This bee has the magical ability that whoever it stings will fall in love with the first person they see.
Are you gonna send it back then?
Since we have it, let's let it sting someone!
I don't know.
How about you?
After Akko, Lotte, and Susie's slight banter, they're soon interrupted by our stock mean girls of the series, Hannah and Barbara, who stopped at the side of the road just to brag to the trio that they get to go to a fancy party, and those three don't. Said fancy party is for Andrew, who by this point in the series, Akko has already met and befriended. Naturally, coming from a noble family, Diana was also invited to this party, who I guess she was allowed to take a +1 because we don't know enough about Hannah and Barbara's background to know how they got invited. Though Diana does not want to stay at the party long because
going to such a trivial event is going to cut into my study time.
Man, she really is the teacher's gopher. After they leave, Akko is now jealous and wants to go to a party that her and her friends originally had no interest in, let alone knew it was happening. So Akko ends up dragging Lotte and Susie along with her to the magic shop in order to find magical dresses so they can use to go into the party to blend in, but also stand out while there. We get a few visual gags till eventually the store owner gives them a Cinderella kit, which will give them magical dresses for 2 hours once they cast the spell on it. Said spell being just narrowly avoiding a Disney lawsuit. The spell works giving them cute dresses, but also a Team Rocket bike as a carriage.
That's it? No wonder no one wanted it.
They soon arrive at the Hombridge Mansion, and we get one of the few times Akko's magic actually works in Season 1 without any form of assistance, as she makes a squirrel giant to reenact the climax of Shrek 2, so the three of them could sneak past the gates during all the confusion. Though I also think they could have gotten in easier if they just reenacted this bit. Once inside, they end up seeing the wonders of fancy living, and Akko ends up seeing Andrew again. Andrew, however, ain't in the best mood today, as he's basically just being praised for things that his dad wants him to do, rather than the things he wants to do. After walking away for a bit, he runs into Diana, and the two subtly throw pot shots at each other disguised as compliments. But then Andrew, Diana, as well as Hip and Hop end up realizing that the idiot trio has snuck into the party, and Andrew kindly asks for the three of them to kick themselves out. But while Akko is arguing with him, saying that they deserve to be there despite not being invited, on a quick side note, I love what Akko says here.
You really can't find it in your heart to show hospitality to a cute prince?
The episode remembers that it started off by establishing a cupid bee, and Susie decides that she wants to do the funniest thing ever. She lets the bee out, and it of course stings Andrew, which as we know by its powers, it causes him to fall madly in love with Akko. Though surprisingly, she doesn't take it well.
Stay with me forever.
In fact, no one does, though I love Diana's reaction.
Seriously?
The cupid bee ends up flying away, and while Lotte is chasing it, it ends up stinging some of Andrew's friends, Frank and 3 other guys who I don't know the name of. And they end up falling in love with Lotte.
Sorry, but I'm really not all that interesting, to be honest.
Any hobbies?
Do you have a boyfriend? I can be your boyfriend if you don't. I love you, Lotte!
Lotte's reactions are adorable, but I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I kinda wish we got to see more of how Lotte dealt with her male harem. Diana, Akko, and Susie end up chasing after the cupid bee, and Andrew ends up chasing after Akko, wondering where she ran off to.
A boy's never liked you before, right?
Oh yeah, it's the first time ever.
I'm sure it'll be the last time, too.
You're right. It'll probably not. That's not the issue here.
Walked right into that one. Susie ends up giving Akko a magic fly swatter that, if she uses it on the cupid bee, will cause the magic to wear off. Diana ends up getting stung by the cupid bee when her back is turned, and then when she runs into Akko,
The truth is, I love you.
which KOs Hannah and Barbara again. Now, unfortunately, Akko and Diana's ship teasing doesn't really go any further than that. This is more of a Akko and Andrew ship teasing episode than it is of both ships, but it is nice that they paid lip service to the other Akko ship involving an uptight rich kid that she ends up helping. Though this is technically understandable due to the fact that at this point in the series, Akko has already befriended Andrew, technically, while Diana and Akko's relationship is still kinda rocky at this point. Remember, this is a season 1 episode. Akko and Diana don't even truly become friends until halfway into season 2. But anyways, Akko's chase for the cupid bee ends up taking her outside, where she overhears Andrew being chewed out by his father for not kicking those witches out sooner. You see, Andrew's dad is a politician who views magic as a waste of time. So naturally, he wants to distance himself as far away as possible as he truly can from it. And because he's one of those uptight rich parents, he expects his son to 100% believe in the same values that he does. Or at least he's trying to make sure of that, as he doesn't like it when Andrew gets distracted on things that he deems a waste of time, which is why Andrew had to give up piano lessons, which was something he took pride in. So yeah, while this is mainly a ship teasing episode, this episode is also a good dive into the relationship Andrew has with his father, and how it will evolve with the help of Akko over time, as eventually Andrew finally is allowed to be his own person and stand up to his father in front of other people during the climax of the series, where Andrew is the one who makes it so the old white folk in power don't end up making the situation during the final conflict worse, so Akko and her friends can actually deal with it. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Once Andrew's dad leaves, Akko ends up confronting Andrew, and we get to see more of her dreaming to be a great witch, while also being very inspiring to people, but believing that the only way she can do that is by being just like her idol, Shiny Chariot, when in actuality she does a good job of inspiring people by acting like herself, which will help make the ones around her better people in the long run. Oh, and we also get this.
You know, you're pretty cute.
The episode then remembers, oh yeah, the cupid bee's a thing, as the two of them end up chasing it back to where all the guests are. And then Andrew ends up covering for Akko by explaining to the guests that she's trying to get rid of a magical bee, and also distracting them by breaking back out his mad piano skills and playing ironically appropriate music.
Meanwhile, for your listening pleasure, Flight of the Bumblebee.
Or as I know it by, 1/3 of the theme from The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, or the theme that plays during that one level in Crash Twinsanity. As Akko tries to squish the bee, it ends up stinging a bunch of the guests, giving birth to God knows how many fanfics, and God knows what other fetishes. But during all the chaos, the bee ends up stinging Diana again, which causes her to end up falling in love with herself. Sweet Jesus. Ultimately, the bee ends up stinging Andrew's dad, but luckily Akko was able to get it at the same time, which caused all of its magic to wear off. And thank God too, because Andrew's dad was looking at Akko when it stung him, and that probably would have led to, you know. Everything goes back to normal right as the magic dresses end up wearing off. Andrew has to pretend that everything he said while under the effects of the cupid bee wasn't true, and let's be real, it definitely was. Lotte ends up losing her male harem, but it turns out that Frank actually does legitimately like her. Which, I don't know, I ship it. And we see that probably after tonight, Hannah and Barbara has lost a certain level of respect for Diana, and Susie has enough blackmail of all the attendees at the party to last her till she's 80. Later we see Andrew reading a book that's just a few off from the funny number, talking to Frank and explaining to him that he doesn't personally believe everything his dad tells him to follow. And back at Luna Nova, where the girls are strangely not punished for sneaking out and causing problems this time. I guess none of them wanted to admit what happened. As we see that Lotte has turned down Frank's offer of going on a date and instead just wants to get to know him as friends first. So you're saying there's a chance. But at the same time, Lotte and Susie tease Akko for definitely being in love with Andrew and him falling in love with her for a short amount of time. At least visibly to them.
You were head over heels. Oh, Akko, with your lips, profess your love to me with a kiss.
Don't worry, maybe one day Andrew will tell you that he loves you for real.
And the episode ends on that note. This episode, aside from the character development we see with Andrew and his father's relationship, is the definition of filler, as it's mainly just there to throw anyone who ships either Akko and Andrew or Akko and Diana a bone. More so the people who ship Akko and Andrew, but it is still nice that they gave that wink to the Akko and Diana fans. Both ships in my eyes are perfectly fine and you're completely valid if you ship either or. Like I said, it's not like other fandoms where I'm a lot more strict. When it comes to me with shipping, I don't like going against what is canon. To me, when you end up shipping something when a character clearly has someone else that they are either in love with or even actually with canonically, it ends up feeling like you're being ungrateful with what you were given and trying to scribble out someone's work. I at that point don't care about your headcanons and don't even respect your headcanons because it just comes off as ungrateful. Which is why you could see me as something like a tyrannical dictator when it comes to something like Mario and the idiots who decide to ship Peach and Daisy with Rosalina when Mario and Luigi are right there. However, when it comes to ships or just franchises in general that don't have canonical pairings, I feel like getting worked up about it means nothing because they intentionally left things up to our interpretation. Maybe these characters get together, maybe they don't. Who knows and who cares when it comes to characters that don't have any canonical shipping. That's why I ship Rayman with Alicia, this random side character from Rayman Legends who barely gets any screen time or any narrative. Or I ship Rayman's mother Batilla with this Teensy. Because there's no canon shipping, so I'm free to do whatever I want when it comes to that. That's just how I am. That's just how I feel when it comes to shipping. So ship Akko with Andrew or ship Akko with Diana. This episode said either or is okay. Now, I'm your average bonehead Jay, and I wish you all good night.